I recorded a 2-part series with Ronicha, the blogger at The Hero Is Within. In today's episode, we talk about mental health, self-love, and words of affirmation. Stay tuned to get your cup poured into.
So currently, I am a blogger and I teach English in South Korea. My blog basically focuses on holistic health, skincare, emotional wellness, and just travel. Also on my blog, I like to celebrate women who have turned their pain into power and used it to become like the heroine of their own lives. So like essentially the hero within slash heroine is for women who want to like take control over their lives, but don't know how, or don't realize the potential they have or the power they have within. So from these topics, I just share my experience and letting these women know that the power they have, they hold the power, no one else. They can take control over their lives in terms of everything I mentioned, like from health to travel to skincare. So, yeah.
Backtracking a little bit, you did have a blog called Ronicha. Can you give us a little bit of background about what that blog was about?
That blog was essentially about the same thing. Well, I had the same topics of travel and health. But I guess my best friend, she inspired me to do it. But at the time, I don't feel like I was actually ready and I was comfortable with just being vulnerable. And I guess like a year or so down the line after launching it, um, it just didn't work anymore. I went to my site and the web link didn't work. Something had gotten broken or hacked. And I wasn't able to back up like all my saved documents. And I guess it like happened for a reason. And at that point, I was just like, listen, I guess I'm done with this. It's not meant to be. But then my other friend, Bria, she had just launched a blog and it was doing really well. And she was like, yeah, you should do it again. You should do it again. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think it's for me. But and so I gave it some thought. I ran it past my best friend. And she was like, yeah, you should totally do it. And this time around, like I just felt more comfortable. And the brand, I had been through some things in my life just with like skincare and struggling like with health and like going through like emotional battles. And I just wanted to share that with others. And this time it just felt more ready. And that's why I like the hero is within is near and dear to my heart at this point. And people even tell me like they can feel like the transparency like this time around. And actually it's only been out for, I guess, like a month or two. And it's doing a lot better than Ronicha did. So
I honestly can relate. Well, first, let me say I'm happy for Bria and your best friend for encouraging you because I'm not going to lie, Ronicha was kind of like, I didn't like it at the time, but it was for me a therapy session, I guess you can say, because it was topics that I feel like weren't really being talked about, especially in the Black community. And when I saw, like, I would periodically go on your blog to see, like, whenever you posted a new blog post. And if there wasn't, I was like, I'll just reread an old one. And then when I saw it wasn't there anymore, I kind of freaked out. I was like, what's happening? But I didn't want to bother you because I figured maybe you're taking a break or you're trying to, like, revamp. Or I've just learned, like, people have things going on in their lives that they're not, like, that's not all they're thinking about. So I do want to say I am happy that you relaunched. And I do think I can agree with what people have said. Your blog does seem like it is a lot more transparent. It seems very raw and naked. And it feels very vulnerable.
yeah, and I just want to thank you. Like you have been my number one fan. I'm like, wow, this girl is super supportive. You really have been rocking with me like since day one. And I appreciate that so much.
Because I understand how it is. Like, even though my blog is kind of like back and forth, I get it. Like, you need that support. As long as someone is supporting you, you're like, okay, someone is looking at this, even if it's just one person. So, but no, I truly do love it. I'm not just supporting you just to support you, even though I would, but I really do love your brand.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much to me.
I'm going to jump around with the questions based off what you just talked about. One of the topics you talk about is health and emotional struggles. Why do you think people struggle with this?
I think people struggle with it's just something, everyone goes through, like even from childhood. But during childhood, you don't really, I guess, know how to express yourself at that point, and you're just falling into what your parents tell you to believe. So you don't really have a chance to explore your own thoughts. So sometimes, like and if you're in an environment that doesn't allow you to express yourself openly, which tends to happen in a lot of Black households. You're not, they see it as talking back, and you're not given that space to say, well, I'm feeling this way. Um, you just keep it bottled up inside, and it goes on into adulthood. And then if you're lucky enough, you'll get to a place where it's like, I went through this in childhood, and that wasn't necessarily right, you know. Um, but it's something everyone deal with, but it's not something everyone knows how to fix, I feel like. Um, because that just comes with awareness. And I can't really tell you how you become aware. Because honestly, my for me, it happened in college where I was just questioning a lot of things, like a lot of my beliefs. I can't really tell you where it stemmed from. I guess I've always been a person that's reflected, and I think if you reflect and you become aware. Growing up, I just used to journal all the time, so I guess I was very in tune with my feelings. And yeah, when I got to college, I was just exploring a lot of my beliefs, a lot of the things I went to, and I just went onto this self-healing journey. And it's been a long one, but here I am, a lot better. So, yeah.
I definitely can relate to that, especially right now where I am in my life. I think now that I'm out of college and I don't have to focus on classes, I'm more focusing on myself and getting really in tune with myself. And I'm realizing the
Mhm.
habits that I have. I'm not necessarily I'm not necessarily saying that there's a right or a wrong way, but I do think that some of the habits I have could be better. And I am
Mhm.
realizing it is stemming from my childhood, which I'm not saying I had a horrible childhood because I didn't, but the way
Right.
I was brought up and the things that I am accustomed to as to what I see as right or comfortable is in society kind of, some people think it's strange or different or can't relate or unable to understand where I'm coming from, and it kind of makes me feel like, okay, how can like I step back and reflect and see like what steps can I take? So for example, I know working out has been helping for me to like really get stressed out instead of like, out or doing other negative things. But I
Mhm.
do think reflecting has helped a lot. So, switching gears up a little bit, mental health is a topic on the rise, especially in the Black community. What is your perspective of mental health in the Black community?
Hmm. That's a very good question. Um, I think this generation, I think we're doing the work, unlike maybe like our parents' generation, because they were taught that, mental illness has this stigma. And if you go see a therapist, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you? It's something that Black people don't do. But now for us, and I can't really tell you how we got here, but I feel like we're taking more control over our lives. Like we're calling out toxic situations, we're calling out like misogyny, we're calling out things that don't feel good to our soul. And I am here for it, let me tell you. Like I love it. I love that we're doing this work to healing. Letting men know that it's okay to have feelings, it's okay to express yourself. Because yeah, like in society, men are just taught to bottle it up. In our Black community, women are taught to just carry everything on their backs and suck it up. And I really see the difference between like our generation and like my parents, because my mom is, how old is mom? I think she's like around 60. And like, she still hasn't done the work. And I feel like the people I know and like myself, like, we're so much further than she is. And sometimes, like, we get into like little arguments and I find myself getting a bit angry, but I have to understand that's the way she was raised and he was brought up a certain way. Um, yeah. So essentially, like, we have a lot to uncover. We've been through a lot as Black people. Like, we're constantly faced with racism and sexism, for the most part. But I feel like at this point, like, we're doing the work. We're trying to push forward. Um, yeah, those are our views. I hope that answered your question.
No, I love it. And just to clarify, when you say this generation, like, are you saying millennials only? Are you
Yeah,
millennials? Okay. And are you saying like millennials and beyond?
yeah,
Or,
millennials and beyond. Yes, I think so.
okay. Do you feel like social media has also played a factor in possibly being able to assist with mental health, or do you think it's almost affecting mental health more?
It's a two-way street. It depends on how you use social media. Social media can be used for something good, like it can be used to uplift you. But there's also that dark side of social media where if like you go in the comments, I feel like everything is so sensitive now. Like, you can't be yourself. You can't say things that's on your mind without other people feeling attacked. But I mean, if those attacked individuals took a step back and kind of zoomed out, they will understand it's more to do with themselves and their insecurities. And I feel like that's actually a time for them to explore like what's going on inside of them. Like, if you see a picture of someone in a bikini and all of a sudden you feel attacked and you feel jealous, you just need to pause right there and say, like, hey, like, why do I feel jealous? And that's how you get to the next level. Because I had to do that too. But yeah, social media, it can be used for good because there are a lot of positive and a lot of positive Instagrammers out there and a lot of poets that write uplifting things. But if you're on it too much, you can fall into the trap of feeling like you're not doing enough. Like, I have a quite a few friends that feel that way when they get on Instagram. Like, oh snap, like she's doing this and she's traveling here, and oh my gosh, she has this amazing job and amazing boyfriend. But you have to remember, people only post the best parts of their life on Instagram. And you have some people who do post the bad stuff, but yeah, it's very few of them. But you just have to remember, like, you are doing enough. Your journey is not everyone else's journey, and everybody has bad parts to their life. And just because that person may seem happy on Instagram, they're probably not.
Amen. I agree. I know currently I'm on a social media cleanse, and I luckily I got on today to get some information from someone else that I'm working on a project with, and I saw your message. And just being back on social media, I'm not the same that I was when I first was on it a while ago. And I do resonate with some of your friends where I look at other people's posts and I'm like, oh my God, this person's doing this, or this person just got engaged, or this happened, or that. And it kind of does for me make me get a little sad or discouraged, but that's why I took the break, is because I needed to step away to realize, why do I feel this way? Like, I should be happy for this person, but it's been the best thing I think I've ever done in a long time.
And I agree with you. Like, and it happens to me too. Like, about 2 weeks ago, I actually found myself feeling that way. Like, oh my gosh, she got married. I'm not married. And oh my gosh, they're traveling here and they're traveling there. And it's at that point, that's when you just need to stop and zoom out. And I'm actually trying to stay off social media as much as possible and just be on there when I'm, for the most part, doing something related to my brand. But yeah, definitely think
But
so.
I have to say, I can't believe you're like, I want to say I don't want to use the word jealous because I don't like to say jealous or envy, but I can't believe that because I do want to get into some of the places you traveled to, but I feel like you traveled to some amazing places. You're in South Korea right now. You've been there for going on 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that is just amazing within itself. You lived in Spain, which I will get into, but I just want to say, like, I think that is amazing. And I just like look up to you so much when it comes to travel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a little moment, but I like snapped out of it real fast. Like, what are
I
you doing?
understand. You just have those moments where it's like, I need to book a ticket, like, I need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so closing up the mental health section, what mental health practices do you utilize? I know you mentioned you did journaling in college. What other things help you to kind of like debrief or clear your mental state?
I did journaling like since childhood. Since I was a little girl, since I knew how to write, I did journaling. Um, and in college, I would write here and there. So it's definitely always been a part of my life. But the mental health practices I like to implement is definitely just reflecting. I reflect every day on just like what's going on in my life, where I want to be, what happened today, um, and just reflecting on my feelings and making sure I'm in a good headspace. Another thing that I have implemented that has been really helpful just with like self confidence and just self love has been changing the way I speak to myself. Like every one of us, we have that little voice in our head. And sometimes it can get a little out of control and say very toxic things and I'm getting tongue tied. But yeah, that voice in my head, it was very detrimental to my growth. It was hindering it because every time like I wanted to speak up or I wanted to say something, like it would say things like you're dumb, like your voice isn't worthy and things like that. And I had to change that to evolve. So what I started doing was just writing um, reminders to myself, like, you are beautiful, you validate Ronicha, you are worthy of good things. And I have it set for not every hour, but I at least have four that reminds me of that every day. And just looking in the mirror and just talking to myself. I used to think that was so weird, like literally hyping yourself up in the mirror. I thought girls who did that was conceited. I'm like, if you're confident, you don't need to say it all the time. But sometimes you just need that push. So when I'm not feeling my best, I'd be like, hey, girl, like, you're beautiful. Hey, girl, like, you're awesome. And it really works. It has transformed me because, listen, I was not always confident. I'm just now getting to this place where I feel like I can just be my authentic self, and I just thank God I'm here because it's something I've always wanted. Like I've always struggled with self-esteem, and that dates back to my childhood as well. And I remember writing this on my vision board, and a vision board is essentially a board full of your goals and what you want to manifest. And I remember getting a picture, and it said like confidence level on 1,000. And now I feel like I'm basically there. Like, of course, there's still room to improve, but I'm there. And that feels so good. And I'm just like, who are you? And who was that person all those other years?
Do you, so just for whoever's listening to the podcast, they may know, but we've actually known each other since high school. And I find that so hard to believe. I've always seen you as very confident. You always seem like well dressed and well poised, and just, of course, you never know what's going on in someone's background or in their personal lives, but you always seem like you had it together. But darn, I kind of lost the question a little bit there. Oh my gosh. Oh, I was gonna say, darn, I don't know. Sorry, I totally lost the question. But that does bring me to my next question. Adulting. I love this word because I thought of it as paying bills, getting married, having kids. However, there is so much more self care and mental practices involved. I know I asked you about your mental health practices and you mentioned having self esteem on 1,000, but how do you balance it all?
Okay. Before I answer that question, I think you were going to say like you saw me as someone who was confident and had it together. I got that a lot. Like people would think I was confident. I think because I was tall and I had like, I don't want to sound cocky, but this is what I've been told. Like, I guess just a very striking appearance. Like, I seem like the type of girl that would be confident. But yeah, that's like the furthest thing from the truth. I wasn't. And I don't know how I seemed that way. I mean, I was, for the most part, quote unquote, happy. But yeah, I was falling apart in the inside. Yeah, I wasn't confident at all. And that is interesting that like I appeared confident, but I wasn't. But I think had you maybe if we would have, I don't know, maybe had a conversation or like interacted more, you probably would have been able to pinpoint that. And I felt like in the past, like a lot of people were a little bit unsure of who I was as a person. And that's because I was unsure of who I was as a person. Um, so yeah,
And actually,
like
I did remember my question. I was gonna say because of the fact that we went to high school together, I feel like even though I'm only seeing people on social media, because obviously I'm not able to see everyone all the time, but I feel like from the people that we were in high school, and this goes across the board to whoever, wherever they are in high school, I feel like in high school, you're almost trying to keep up with this stereotype or trying to keep up with the Pierces, let's say like keeping up with the Joneses. But then it's like when you graduate high school, you're almost free to be whoever you want to be. And then that's when I don't want to say the problem, but that's when you face the issue or the project of who am I really? In high school, I was this person, or in high school, I was that person. And some people know who they are and are that person from high school to this day. But some people, I feel like they've just evolved in such beautiful and great ways. Do you feel like high school sometimes shelters you to be a certain way or look a certain way, or you have to like have this name brand this or name brand that, have your hair looking a certain way, and then when you come to the real world, it's almost like, yeah, you can keep up with Joneses, but you also got bills to pay and real life issues happening.
yeah, it definitely does. Like when you're in that popular crowd, which I wouldn't consider myself being in the popular crowd. I've always, huh?
Well, I think you were, but I think compared to other people, you were very, I think, more modest and more relatable. You weren't like popular and not like stompy. You were like popular and just like really chilled and laid back, in my opinion.
Oh, that's so wow, this is so interesting. I would never in a million years consider myself popular. Felt like I was always like in the middle. But yeah, like the super popular kids, they have an image to maintain, and that's because everyone wants to be accepted, at that point, at that age, like acceptance is a big deal. So you pressure your parents to go out and buy $250 Jordans, and you want to look the best and you want to be the best, but you're not being true to who you are. Thankfully, I never really had that experience. Like, I didn't feel pressure to really keep up a certain image. I was just who I was. Like, I didn't I didn't have to do that, but there are many other kids that feel pressure to do that. But I was just telling them to stay true, like to who you are. Do what feels good to you. Um, because in the long term, like that's gonna be the thing that makes you successful, or that's gonna be the thing that allows you to sleep at night and feel good about who you are. And also, it's going to be the things that people admire about you, because we do live in a society that glamorizes fake. Like on Instagram, everyone is supposedly living their best life.
Yes, living the best life.
Yeah, that's like a recurrent theme these days. I'm living my best life. And I want people to live their best life. And I was so happy when I saw all of these people traveling and just like broadening their horizons, because in America, they really teach you, they instill fear in you for travel. So to see so many Black people traveling, it really fills my heart. But then now it's just kind of seeming like, okay, I just want to say I've been to this place, but I haven't actually experienced this place. Like, I feel like now it's just to get the picture. You're not even going to immerse yourself in the culture. It's just to get that perfect picture to say I've been to this place. But if I were to sit down with that person, could they actually tell me what they learned, what they experienced, what the culture was like, what you ate, like, could you actually have a conversation as to where you've been? And traveling can be so therapeutic if it's done right. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons and just to get this miraculous picture, yeah, it's not going to turn out well. But yeah, stay the truth to who you are is the theme.
I agree, but getting back on topic with the question I stated earlier, adulting. I love this word because I thought of it as paying bills, getting married, having kids. However, there is so much more self care mental practices involved, like staying in contact with your parents or any friends, taking care of your mental state. How do you balance it all?
Whew, let me tell you, that is something that is so hard, and something I wish my sister raised me. My sister, I wish she would have talked to me more about this, because it is hard. It is so hard. I didn't realize it would be this hard. I'm definitely trying to find the medium between, work, and then making time for self care, and then making time to check on your parents and stuff, and then work on your own personal goals and side projects. It is hard, and it's something that I'm actually struggling with and trying to find a balance. I was never one to plan, but now I've gotten into planning because I see that's the only way this is going to work out. And I'm realizing that adulting really is doing a whole bunch of stuff you really don't want to do. I think as little kids, we're so anxious to be adults because it just seems like this world of freedom. And it is, but it's also a lot of doing a lot of stuff you don't want to do. Just like when you were a child, it was just prepping you for adulthood. um, but um, I would just say, if you're one that is struggling with adulting, just try to make a list, make lists and rate them in terms of what's most important, and just try to accomplish like 3 things a day and check that off your list. Um, you really have to plan your schedule hour by hour for the most part. And don't put off things that you can do today. Like, procrastination is probably like a adulting killer. Don't procrastinate as an adult. But you also, I don't want to say like just work, 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 because that's not what it's about. Like, when you need those moments to just like recollect yourself, get back on track, make sure you take those times as well. But it's really just about balance. Um, and I don't feel like there's one way to do it. That's the way I do it. Like, make lists. I'm trying to plan out my days a little bit better. But it's just doing whatever feels right to you, because what works for me may not work for everyone. So I don't want to promote like one way of doing things. So yeah.
I agree, which is why I said in my previous answer, like there's no right or wrong way. But I do feel like it doesn't hurt to like get someone else's opinion and see like what they do and change it up to how it can work for you and your lifestyle. Earlier you mentioned self-love, and sometimes you have to have those affirmations or talk yourself up. What does self-love mean to you?
Self-love means that you acknowledge who you are in your entirety. The good and the bad parts, you accept them. you stand face to face with them. And if there is anything you don't like, you work to change it. And I mean work. I don't mean preach about I'm on a self-love journey because I'm in a hot tub and painting my nails tonight. I mean actually stand in the pain, come face to face with those issues. And that's not always easy. And it's not an easy journey. Like you really just have to put yourself out there naked. And that's where change manifests. Also, to me, self love is um, doing things that feels right, doing things that won't harm your body, whether that's in terms of health, a relationship, even a job. Like you have to honor yourself through the process. And I feel like true self-love, you just don't do things that doesn't feel good to you. And if it doesn't feel good, you change it. So that means caring about what you put in your body, what you put on your skin, where you're working, your relationship. So yeah, I think it's just being authentic, staying true to yourself.
I actually did a Twitter poll before I took my social media break, and I asked, is mental health more important than being able to pay the bills? And I was surprised by the amount of people who said that mental health was more important. I didn't figure out on the Twitter poll how to figure out who exactly said what, but I mostly follow millennials. So I figured that millennials focus more on money and being able to have money to do whatever they want to do. But I think going back to what you said earlier, mental health is more important to us in our age group, just making sure like we're mentally stable and okay. So I think that correlates with self-love. Like it's not just that bubble bath, which is what I actually thought self-love was at first, was okay, I'm gonna get a bubble bath, a pedicure, that's all I need, and everything's gonna be okay. And it's like you said, it's way more. And I actually wanted to go into your blog post you posted recently, which was called The Struggle to Self-Love. You mentioned a little bit of the things that you talked about in your blog post, like reminders you set for yourself. I wanted to talk about the inner voice because I know I struggle with that inner voice where the inner voice sometimes like gets you down, where it's that voice where you're like, I'm gonna go and start a blog, and that inner voice is like, no, why are you doing that for, girl? There's so many other people with a blog, yours isn't gonna be any different or so much better than theirs, you don't need that. How do you fight against that? Like, is reminders the only thing you do, or do you talk to friends for advice? I know you mentioned that earlier. What other things do you do to fight against that inner voice?
A huge catalyst for me in terms of the inner voice was when I came across this book called The Untethered Soul. And it really just focuses on learning that you are not that inner voice. If you change your perspective and you look at it in terms of this inner voice is not a part of me, sort of thing, but I am the watcher. I am the become the watcher of your thoughts. And just pay attention. Sit back as if you're watching a movie and just listen to those things. Like let your mind run rampant and you just listen to those things. And you take notes of how it is your voice is talking to you. Become the watcher and knowing that you are not that voice. You are a person, like you are not your emotions. You are a person that is experiencing those emotions. Those emotions aren't you. And I know that kind of sounds a little bit weird, but I think once you do that, like you just sit and watch. I remember actually doing the exercise of just listening to my thoughts. And I'm like, yo, this is some crazy stuff that's happening. Like, why is my voice saying all of these bad things? And then after that, you just change it into something that's positive. You say, no, that's not correct. You write those self-love reminders. You make those post-it notes. You look yourself in the eyes and say, I am worthy. And I think the more you do that, the more that voice will start to change. And also, like, hey friend, hey from the friend zone mentioned, like, if you wouldn't allow a best friend to talk to you this way, why are you allowing yourself to talk that way? So it's just really about recognizing how it is you're talking to yourself, and then just watch it, make notes of it, and then just try to change it. It is a hard process. Like, it's not an easy one, because you kind of have to be aware all the time. And immediately, like, when you notice like you're doing the whole negative self-talk thing, just change it around, like, right away. Counteract it with something positive. And it seems tedious at first, but before you know it, you won't hear the negative voice. And I remember I was just like in the mirror doing my makeup one day. I was like, you know something? I don't have that negative voice. And I was actually really surprised. I was like, I can't remember a time I've talked to myself negatively or called myself dumb or said I was not pretty or this was wrong and that was wrong. Because back in 2017, like, everyone I would wake up, I would just be like, ugh, I don't like this and I don't like that. And oh my gosh, I feel this way about myself and that way. And I literally cried in my bathroom because I'm like, whoa, I've reached this point that I've always wanted. And I don't have that negative voice anymore. And it's actually quite mind blowing.
So, just to clarify, to combat the negative voices, you became aware of them, sat down, wrote out sticky notes with positive affirmations and reminders, and over time, that cleared the negative voices in your head.
Yeah. Just like take 10 minutes to meditate and to just like listen to that voice and know that you are not that voice. You are a watcher of that voice. And and if you want, like, I would highly recommend reading the Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. Like, that book is life changing, and it will go all into like the inner voice and how we can use death as a reminder to actually live. Like, it talks about everything dealing with the subconscious and that whole inner voice thing. It's a really great book. I would highly suggest you read it.
I will definitely be adding that to my reading list. So where do you get your inspiration from? Who or what inspires you?
What inspires me? I think at this point, what inspires me is just thinking of the life I want to live. Like, like, I'm really into like holistic health, and being healthy is not cheap. It is not cheap. And I want to live a certain life. I want to live a certain way. Like, I want a custom built house that overlooks like a garden, a forest. Like, I want to grow my own food. I want to have like everything organic. I want to have a sauna in my house. I want to be able to travel as freely as I want. And for that costs a lot of money. So I'm just trying to be aware of my goals so that I can stay inspired, because I feel like it's something that I struggle with. Like, well, it's not something I struggle with. I think it's more so like the consistency. Um, yeah, so just reminding myself of where I want to be and knowing that it isn't, a cheap lifestyle I want to live is what inspires me. Also, when I need little pick me ups, I listen to Oprah. Oprah is my girl. I love Oprah. Beyonce is someone else, as cliche as it may sound. She is someone who inspires me, just watching how hard she works. Like, her work ethic is out of this world. Seeing how hard she works is something that literally inspires me. So there'll be a few days out the year I have my Beyonce moment where I would just like watch all of her videos, interviews, and I just feel rebirth almost.
I completely understand, because there's that quote that always I see pop up, especially on Pinterest, is what the amount of things that Beyonce can accomplish in a day. What's stopping you?
That can
So
be up for debate.
she does have a team.
That's up for debate, but hey.
It is. But I do just want to say it is important to remind yourself of where you want to go. But what I'm realizing for me is I'm reminding myself of the goals and where I want my life to be, but also seeing how far I've come from where I've come from. So I do think that that's important. Like, yeah, I'm not there. I'm not at the finish line or that goal that I'm focused on right now. But I do look back and say, look at what you've been able to accomplish in the past, like, 5 months or the past year. So I do just want to say like that is important as well.
It definitely is. Like, you definitely have to find that medium. Like, you can't live too much in the future because then you forget to enjoy the now. So that's why it's important, like, each day, even to just name things you are grateful for and just honor your journey. Like, even if, say, you're on a weight loss journey, like, appreciate your body in that moment, because, like, when you look back, you're like, dang, like, I wish I would have did this, or, oh, I was so unhappy and I didn't even look that bad. I feel like girls have that all the time. Like, you look back at a picture and you be like, dang, I thought I was fat, or I thought I looked ugly here. And you realize, like, you actually look really freaking young and your body was popping, but you was too busy, like, trying to morph into something else. So definitely finding that medium is hard. Plan for the future, but still live in the moment, enjoy yourself, have fun. Know that it won't always, this won't always last. If you're struggling or going through a hard time, it won't always last. It will get better. And, and I don't want people to think that having a lot of money or getting that better job will erase all of their problems and that all of a sudden they will be happier. Like, that's just not true. Like, celebrities talk about it all the time. More money does not equal more happiness. It's really just, I would say, just start setting that foundation now, like changing your mindset now. Like, there's always a positive and a negative. Like, if you're going through a horrible situation, there's a positive there, and just appreciate the journey and enjoy it.
Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled? Follow us on our social media platform for daily inspiration at Pour Into My Cup on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Or check out our blog and services at www.pourintomycup.org. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Roshiba, signing off.